These are 50 support weapon tips every Helldiver should know. The Flamethrower deals no damage to most armored automatons, which is probably why some people consider it F tier against the automatons. For the Flamethrower, it does matter where you aim, so make sure to focus down on targets' weak spots, such as the Brute Commander's face or the Charger's legs. Just make sure not to constantly swap from leg to leg, which will delay your TTK by a vast amount. Wind does impact the fire, so if you're in a sandstorm or a blizzard, be careful so as to not kill yourself even if you're firing forward. Smaller units die to just being lit on fire, so make sure you're not only directly firing at bigger units' weak points, but also make sure to light the floor on fire as well so as to get rid of the little guys. The fire, weirdly enough, does not effectively go around enemies, even though the fire animation looks like it does. If you light yourself on fire, press your dive button to instantly extinguish it. Everybody should know this by now, but I hope I can still save a few lives. The Flamethrower can kill Bile Titans as a last resort type of deal, and it sometimes is somewhat effective at doing so. Just make sure that the Bile Titan in question has some part of its armor broken off before you attempt to do this, as the damage you'll be dealing to its soft skin will bring it down fairly quickly. For EATs, get rid of the drop pod it's stored into, so both EATs drop in a way that's not only more effective to grab, but also it's easier and faster. And also, it will mark the EATs in the minimap for you to more easily find them later on. EATs are useful to be brought along even if you're already equipped with other anti-tank solutions, so as to give your swarm clearing teammates a tool to deal with these massive units as well. Make sure to call in EATs proactively rather than reactively to maximize its ammo economy and give you a few more shots to work with. In other words, don't wait for a Bile Titan to spawn to then call in the EATs. Call them in whenever you think you'll be hanging out to a certain area for any longer than 70 seconds, which is how long the EAT's cooldown is. And this will allow you to maximize your efficiency using these. The EATs should be seen as more of a supplement to dealing with massive units rather than the only way to deal with these tanky units. Don't only bring in EATs if you want an anti-tank solution, and don't be afraid to also equip the EAT if you're already equipped with other anti-tank stratagems. After all, even if you're not using your EATs, at least your team can. The Quasar cannon takes 15 seconds to reload between each shot, so keep that in mind and maximize your efficiency by continuing to dish out damage in between each cannon shot. And you can also minimize the time wasted for checking to see if the Quasar is ready to go by paying attention to the big overheat warning on its side. To see this sign though, you will have to strafe to the left to get a good look at it, but once that sign is gone, the Quasar is ready to go. You can edge your Quasar shots and only release when you're ready to go, which is a fantastic tool to use to your advantage when trying to hit an enemy's weak spot and is currently out of sight. The recoilless rifle can be reload cancelled, saving you about a second or so per reload by either sprinting or diving once this icon right here turns from red to white. If you wait out the entire animation, it'll waste your precious time. The same can be done with spears and Airburst rocket launchers and such, but none of them save as much time as the recoilless rifle in my experience. Pair the recoilless rifle with a good swarming clearing loadout when going against the bugs so as to not get as easily overwhelmed, since with the recoilless rifle you can't bring a stratagem and are rather exposed with minimal protection and swarm clearing potential. The same will apply with the spear. For the arc thrower, bodies and small objects will block your shots, so be aware of them. High ground will be your absolute best strategy, as you can avoid objectives more easily from blocking your shots and much more easily handle swarms. The arc thrower's ship module will increase its kill potential by 33%, even though the way it's worded doesn't sound quite that appealing. Stun grenades will cause the hulks to lean forward, making it extremely easy to hit its weak spot and killing them with only 2 or so shots. Don't let the laser cannon overheat or it'll force you to reload. Only push to the extreme if you can't afford to wait the cool-off timer. For reference, the reload time will take you about 3.6 seconds to do so. However, in cold planets, the laser cannon will recharge in roughly 11 seconds. In regular climate planets, that'll take about 17 seconds, and in hot planets, we're looking at about 22 seconds, roughly twice as long as the cold ones. The laser cannon has an armor penetration of 4, falling in this awkward range where it's extremely deadly against automatons, very easily getting rid of Hulk's eyes, devastators, gunships, and the like, whereas over at the bug side, it's not powerful enough to handle chargers or Bile Titans, and being rather mediocre in comparison with the other support weapons for the smaller guys. The grenade launcher's grenades deal 50 less damage than impact and high explosive nades, and has an armor penetration of 3 instead of 4. So if you ever felt that the grenades from the launchers were weaker than your regular grenades, you were right. Reserve some grenades to dump shots onto bug breaches and reinforcement drops to maximize its killing potential. It can be one of the better support weapons at shutting down breaches. For the spear, utilize high ground to maximize the lock-on's potential, but if you can't get high, get far. The spear can be shot from so far away that you can easily stealth through missions or clear out factories without ever being at risk. When trying to one-hit a massive target, make sure their weak spot is turned to you so you can line up the one-shots. The crosshair is a pretty good tell of where the rocket will land unless the unit is outright in your face. The Railgun's new safe mode has an armor penetration of 5, dealing damage to heavy armored units. Swapping it to unsafe mode allows you to pump it up to maximum armor penetration and deals 50% more damage than the safe mode, but it does take 2 seconds longer to charge up to the 90-ish% charge. The Airburst rocket launcher direct damage can deal damage to chargers, but it is rather negligible, so don't try to do that. When using the Airburst, fire the shots slightly above your targets as the cluster bombs will drop below after bursting open. Just make sure to bring the fortified trait. Reload the autocannon before it's completely empty for a faster reload, bringing it down from 5.2 seconds all the way to only 1.7 seconds, which is going to save your life plenty of times. Also, the autocannon has 10 shots, so you could count your shots if you keep overshooting. Pair the autocannon with a stun grenade to give you a tool to create space to reload, as well as trivialize hulks. This does of course apply to a few other weapons as well, such as the laser cannon and others. You can also close off fabricators from afar, so use this to get rid of outposts without ever exposing yourself. For the anti-material rifle, no scoping is perfectly accurate, and I personally find it far easier to use than with the scope, as the ergonomics of the weapon feels a lot faster. But of course, for that you'd need a monitor that can draw a crosshair for you, which most gaming monitors have these days, or find other means to do so. If not, then just keep on scoping, boys. If you need a bit of extra help with aiming, always pair it with stuns on both terminid and automaton sides so you can melt those weak spots more easily. The Stalwart is the second highest damaging automatic weapon in the game, only behind the machine gun, but it can be reloaded while running, making it one of the best automatic weapons in the game, so you could consider utilizing it if you're wanting a good automatic primary weapon. Pair Stalwarts with EATs if you need an anti-tank solution, giving you a full loadout flexibility. The Stalwart has an armor penetration of 2, making it a very bad weapon against automatons unless you're absolutely hitting every bot's weak spots, but it's generally best to avoid them. The heavy machine gun, on the other hand, however, has a 4 armor penetration, meaning it's going to be able to deal with most units in the game that the regular machine gun can't. The most notable enemies it outshines against is it's able to kill hulks by shooting their eyes, and it can also kill factories from shooting their legs rather than only being able to shoot from underneath it, and others of course. It also has a very increased durable damage, or in other words, it's going to do far more damage against armored units when compared with the likes of the regular machine gun. Machine gun has an armor penetration of 3, being the middle ground between the Stalwart and the heavy machine gun, making it rather deadly against both factions, but always lacking against heavier units. Now onto a few multiple support weapon tips. Combine these right here with a jump pack and reload mid-air so as to be able to create space between you and the terminid to more successfully reload. Always pair these with a 30% recoil reduction armor set, or you'll be wasting a lot of potential damage and making your life a lot harder. Only bring these if you're playing the crowd control role in your team. The higher the difficulty, the more anti-tank solutions a team needs. So make sure your team has got enough of that before locking into these weapons. it's always recommended to bring at least EATs. When picking one of these 3 weapons, consider what you'll be dealing against. Stalwart works better against small units and bugs. Heavy machine gun if you're on higher difficulty bot runs and you need more armor penetration, and the machine gun will be the middle ground of both, providing you with some better armor penetration than the Stalwart while still having some of the downsides the heavy machine gun has. Now change your RPM based on your needs. Low fire rate for general purposes to conserve ammo and maximize accuracy, and fast fire rate for dishing out max damage versus big units such as chargers or factory striders. Make sure to rush for the superior packing methodology if you run these support weapons, as you'll be able to refill your rockets off of just one resupply rather than having to pick up multiple. And lastly, for these, wait until the Bile Titan has stopped spitting to take your anti-tank shots at its face, as the Bile Titan takes way less damage when they're doing their spit animation. So these are 50 support weapon tips every Helldiver should know. Hopefully you learned something new today. Thank you Helldivers for watching. I'll be catching you on the next one. Peace!